Okay, guys, today I want to talk about becoming a big D. So, first of all, I'm sure you're asking yourself, what in the world does it mean to become a big D? So, what I mean by a big D is I'm referring to the D in a DISC assessment. So, you've probably done a DISC assessment either for us or for another company at some point. If you haven't heard about DISC assessment, it basically is it's analyzing your working style, and it's got four different DISC. Each one stands for a different thing, and D is for decisive, I is for influencer, and obviously influencer makes sense why a big I is good for sales. But the other thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is the importance of decisiveness in sales. And when I say decisiveness, I mean your ability to make decisions. Now, this is something that I learned. It was one of the first things that I learned in sales training. I did sales training with Lucian sales training with Aaron Perkel. It's back when I signed up for it, it was advertised as expensive and difficult sales training. It was worth every penny. I highly recommend it. If you're interested, give me a call. I will put you in touch with Aaron, and he will make you an amazing salesperson. But it's an investment in yourself. It's an investment in your ability and career as a salesperson. It will pay dividends. I promise you this. But one of the things that Aaron taught me early on in the sales training, he asked me, tell me a little bit about the way you would buy a pair of shoes. And I was like, what the hell does the way I would buy a pair of shoes have anything to do with sales training? But what I told him was, when I buy shoes, I go to a bunch of stores, probably, look at a bunch of shoes that were kind of close to what I wanted, struggle with making a decision, probably not buy a decision, or probably not make a decision or buy a pair of shoes, and probably need to come back 2 or 3 times before I actually bought the pair of shoes. And what Aaron pointed out to me was that, all right, so how much did you spend on that pair of shoes ultimately? Well, probably less than $150. How much do you think you really saved from, these extra trips to and from the store? Probably at the end of the day, less than $30 that I saved. And then the big question they hit me with was, how much is your time worth? Is it worth, you're putting in 2 or 3 hours of looking at shoes? Do you really like looking at shoes? I don't. Do you really like looking at shoes and you're spending 2 or 3 hours doing it because you don't make it, this is how you buy. And so what I learned from that, and I guess the point of this is, you are going to sell to people with the expectation that they're going to buy the same way that you do. So this comes down to, how well do you make decisions? And so over the last couple years, I've become a much more aggressive decision maker. I don't like spending time on decisions. I gather the information I need, I make the decision, I move on. One of the things that I would recommend, a practice I recommend taking up, is poker. Poker's all about making a decision. You have less than all of the information. You have to make a best guess. You make the decision, make the best decision you can. You move on, and you make on from decision to decision to decision. And that is probably something that really helped me out the best. So basically, Aaron's statement about how I make decisions, buying shoes, and playing poker. So getting the practice of making decisions. So I'm sure you're probably still a little bit confused about why all of this matters to sales. Well, the answer is, your job is to help people make decisions. Which contractor should I go with? What color shingle should I put on my roof? Should I upgrade to a more expensive shingle? Now, if you feel like these are major decisions that need to be thought over, that need to have both people in the room, that need to have multiple, you need to talk with multiple people. If that's how you make decisions, that's how your clients are going to make decisions. Okay, so if you feel like this decision about who puts on your roof is a big decision, and you probably need to think it over, your clients are going to think it over. If you think that this decision about putting a roof is a pretty simple decision, we meet your needs, it's time to sign this and move on with your life, that's how you're going to act. Your clients are going to act that way. So what do I want you guys to take from this? First off, if you struggle with making decisions, you've got to figure out how to stop. Like you gather when you're making a buying decisions, here's how you make that decision. Figure out what my needs are. Does this product meet my needs? If it meets your needs, you buy that product. That's it. You have to change the way that you buy things. I mean, that's part of becoming a big D. A big D basically means you are good at making decisions. You make them quickly. You make them easily. You make them confidently. And so you have to change the way that you buy. You have to practice making decisions, and that's what's going to help you become the big D, decisive type of person. So I had one of my favorite sales guys, Kevin Dotson. Great canvasser. All right, like he's a great canvasser. Built great relationships. People love working with him. People love buying with him. Could not close leads to save his life. If he didn't go in there with the relationship ahead of time, he couldn't close the lead. The reason was he couldn't make decisions. Like if I offered Kevin a promotion, it took him 3 months to think about it. By the time he made a decision, the promotion was off the table because we had to move forward as a business. If Kevin was buying something, he couldn't make a decision. Couldn't move forward. I love Kevin to death, $1 million producer, but he cannot. Basically, he builds relationships with people. They sign when they sign. He's in a neighborhood all the time, and so people basically flag him down and love working with him. But if I send Kevin on a home advisor lead or something like that, no way he's getting the sales because he cannot make a decision. So you need to kind of take a look at, if you've done a DISC assessment, are you a big D or a small D? Are you decisive or indecisive? If you are a big D, that's great. That's part of why you're going to succeed at sales. If you're struggling on your decisiveness, that's something that you can change over time. You can practice it. You practice it with poker's an hour of making decision after decision. The way you buy things is the way you make decisions. You've got to become more decisive. Gather the information, move forward. That's how decisions are made. If you feel like you struggle with making decisions, give me a call. Let's sit down and talk about this, because I do think that people who are decisive expect other people to be decisive. I have no problem with making decisions. It's, look at the information, make a decision, move forward. I don't like spending additional time on decisions. It's time wasted. So to me, that's how I sell. Like you don't need it. I give you the information you need. That's all you need. Sign here, right? Very short, sweet, to the point. Works well. If you feel like people need, if you're not good at making decisions, you're going to give people too much information. You're just going to keep talking because you don't feel like you've given them enough information to make a decision yet, and so you talk yourself out of a sale. So guys, your decisiveness will determine how good of a salesperson you are, how good of a closer you are, and long term, making decisions better is going to make you a stronger salesperson. So if you haven't done a DISC assessment yet, do one. I think you can do those online. You can do them. I think we're doing them right now. So if you don't know if you feel like you're indecisive, let's talk about how you become a more decisive person, a more decisive buyer, and become a more decisive salesperson, because it's critical to your success.